You know how AI is like the talk of the town these days. It's going to revolutionize everything, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much.
But get this.
Mm-hmm.
It might actually revolutionize something you probably don't think about too much. Your taxes.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually what we're looking at today. We've got this IMF article.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that goes deep on how this new kind of AI, generative AI,
Yeah, anything.
yeah, Gen AI, could totally change like the whole relationship between, us taxpayers
Right.
and the tax man.
Yeah, so we've all heard of AI, obviously.
Right.
But what exactly is this Gen AI? Like, what makes it different, and why is it such a big deal for taxes specifically?
Okay, so think about it this way. Like the AI they've been using in taxes up to now, that's kind of like a really, really good calculator, crunching numbers, spotting fraud, that kind of thing.
Right, right.
But Gen AI, that's more like you've got a whole tax expert sitting right there with you.
Oh, wow.
It can understand like human language and actually generate it too.
Really?
Yeah, so that means it can actually like understand the tax code, all the crazy complexities,
Oh, wow.
and even give you personalized advice.
So it's not just like spitting out numbers at you. It can actually like explain it.
Exactly, exactly.
okay.
Like the old AI might flag something in your deductions, say,
Right.
discrepancy, but Gen AI, it could actually be like, hey, here's why that's happening,
Ah.
and here's the documentation you need, and by the way, here's how to fix it.
That's amazing.
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's wild. But I mean, is this really happening, or is this like some futuristic fantasy?
No, it's happening right now.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, so Singapore, their tax authority, they've got this virtual assistant, answers all your questions in
Whoa.
multiple languages. Not only is it way easier for taxpayers,
I bet.
but their call center inquiries got cut in half.
Wow. No more waiting on hold for like 3 hours. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Gen AI, it can help taxpayers, but can it also be like a tool for the tax collectors?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It
Okay.
can help them in a bunch of ways. Like, imagine analyzing tons of data, finding trends and patterns that normal people would miss
Right.
that could point to, tax evasion.
Ah.
Gen AI can do that way faster, way more efficiently than us humans. So then the tax officials, they can just focus on the really complicated cases.
Right. Yeah, the high risk ones. So it's kind of like having this like superpowered assistant
Yeah, exactly.
doing the grunt work
Exactly.
so the humans can focus on the big picture stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wouldn't this technology be like way too expensive for, less developed countries?
That's a really good point. And the IMF article actually talks about that. It could be a game changer for low-income countries.
Really?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Madagascar, for example.
Right.
It could help them like modernize their whole tax system, make it way more efficient, more transparent. They might even get more tax revenue.
So it's like a tool for economic development, really.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Wow. That's really cool. But let's get back to like me, the individual taxpayer.
Okay.
Can you give me a concrete example of how Gen AI would actually like personalize my experience with taxes?
Sure. Let's say you're a freelancer.
Okay.
You've got all these different income streams and expenses,
Not
right?
that complicated.
Gen AI could look at all your data, figure out every single deduction you can take,
Right.
and even estimate like what you're going to owe throughout the year.
Oh, wow.
So no surprises come tax season.
I like that.
And maybe even a lower tax bill.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
But I got to admit, the idea of AI, like handling my taxes, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like, what about data security? What about privacy?
Yeah.
Couldn't this technology be misused?
Oh, those are valid concerns. But
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We've got so much sensitive info online already, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The key is we need really strong security measures
Okay.
and clear regulations
Yeah.
that make sure the data is used responsibly.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to remember, even with Gen AI, humans are still in control. We're the ones setting the parameters. We're monitoring the system.
Right.
We make the final decisions.
So it's not about like blindly trusting the AI. It's using it as a tool
Right.
while still having humans like overseeing everything.
Exactly. And that's actually where things get really interesting. Like, how do we make sure human expertise keeps up with this technology?
That's a good question.
It's changing so fast, you know?
Yeah.
What new skills are tax professionals going to need in this crazy Gen AI world?
Yeah, those are great questions. And those are the questions that we're going to dive into right after this. So stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into GenAI and taxes. I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, yeah, there's so much to unpack.
But it's really exciting stuff.
It is.
But before we get too carried away with all the cool things it can do,
Right.
let's talk about the challenges.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Because it can't all be sunshine and roses.
Of course not. No new technology is perfect. Right. There's always going to be some hurdles.
Right.
One of the biggest ones with Gen AI, it's making sure the information it's giving you is actually accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've had those chatbots that just don't understand what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so frustrating. What happens if this thing gives me bad tax advice?
Right. Well, that's where knowledge management comes in.
Okay.
This is a big one. Tax authorities, they got to create this structured database of all the tax laws, regulations, court decisions, everything.
Wow, that's a lot.
To train the AI, right? So it's accurate.
So it's not just learning from random stuff online.
No, it's got to be organized, reliable.
Like a digital library just for taxes?
Yeah, exactly.
You can see the AI is super well read.
Yeah, but the thing is, this library, it's got to be constantly updated, right?
Oh, right, because tax laws are always changing.
Oh, at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So the AI's got to keep up with all that.
It does.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is.
Who's in charge of all that?
Well, that's where tax professionals, they become even more important.
Really?
So, yeah.
I thought maybe the AI would replace them.
No. Even in a Gen AI world, they're crucial.
Oh, yeah?
They're the ones curating this knowledge base, making sure it's all accurate, and then they got to interpret what the AI spits out.
Right, because sometimes it's complicated.
Especially in complex situations, yeah.
So it's not replacing them, it's just making their job different.
Exactly. It enhances their role, yeah.
Okay, so we still need those skilled tax pros.
Oh, absolutely.
But what about the average person? Me.
Right.
Will I have to become a tax expert to use this system?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's the beauty of it, remember? One of the main goals is to make taxes easier to understand.
Right.
So imagine you've got this AI assistant.
Okay.
And and it's putting it into plain language.
Okay.
Just for you.
So instead of being completely overwhelmed,
exactly,
I can actually have a conversation with the AI.
Yeah.
And get personalized guidance.
Exactly. That's the idea. It's about democratizing tax knowledge.
Oh, I like that.
Empowering people so they can manage their taxes themselves.
With confidence, hopefully.
Yeah. And less stress.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
For sure.
But I'm still thinking about the big picture stuff.
Okay.
If this really does make taxes easier and more efficient,
right,
how could that change society as a whole?
Well, one big thing, it could lead to way more people actually paying their taxes.
Really?
Yeah, it's called tax compliance.
Okay.
If people feel like the system is fair.
Okay.
And it's easy to understand. They're more likely to do things right.
Right.
Pay on time, all that.
It makes sense. Nobody likes feeling lost and confused, especially when it comes to money.
Exactly.
So if this AI can take away some of that, it could actually mean more money for the government.
Exactly. More tax revenue.
And then they can use that for other stuff.
Right. Public services, infrastructure, all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's like a win-win.
Yeah, it's a virtuous cycle.
Okay, that's a really good argument for using this technology.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about the downsides too.
Right.
We talked about data security and privacy. Are there other ethical things we should be thinking about?
Oh, for sure. We got to make absolutely sure this technology is used fairly.
Right.
For everyone.
Yeah, equitably.
Equitably, exactly.
And it doesn't make existing inequalities worse.
Right. It can't exacerbate anything that's already there.
So it's not just about making things more efficient.
Yeah.
It's got to be fair too.
It's got to be just for everyone. Yeah.
For everyone, yeah.
And that takes careful planning. We got to be watching it all the time.
Right, monitoring it.
Monitoring and having open discussions about the impacts.
Right, because we don't know what all the impacts are going to be yet.
Right, exactly. We got to be proactive.
Yeah.
And make sure Gen AI is actually benefiting society.
Right, not just a select few.
Exactly, everyone.
Okay, so there's a lot to think about.
There is.
But I'm curious, what does all this mean for the listener?
Right.
The person listening to this right now.
An individual, yeah.
Yeah, how could Gen AI actually impact their personal experience with taxes?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back.
Yeah.
And I got to say, my head is kind of spinning.
Yeah, that's a lot, right?
Like, we've covered so much ground about how GenAI can, like, reshape taxes.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild stuff.
It is. It is.
But let's bring it back down to earth a little.
Okay.
Like, how is this going to change, my experience, the listener's experience
Right, right,
with taxes?
right.
Like, what's the actual impact going to be?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? So let's try to imagine like a real world scenario.
Okay.
Step out of the theoretical and into the practical.
Okay. I like it.
All right, picture this. It's tax season,
Uh-oh.
but instead of dreading it like you normally would,
Right.
you're actually maybe not looking forward to it.
Right, because who looks forward to taxes?
And nobody.
But at least you're not, like, totally filled with dread.
Right.
Yeah, I'm willing to play along.
Okay.
What makes this tax season different?
Well, because now you've got GenAI as your guide.
Okay.
And suddenly, filing your taxes feels a lot less like, deciphering some ancient scroll,
Right.
and a lot more like just having a conversation.
Okay,
You're
yeah.
interacting with this intuitive interface. It's asking you like simple questions about your income, your expenses, any big life changes, that kind of thing.
So no more, like, trying to figure out those crazy forms
Yeah.
and all the little boxes, and I don't even know what half the stuff means.
No more of that.
Okay.
The GenAI has already looked at all your financial data.
Right.
It knows what deductions you can take, what credits you qualify for.
It might even, like, suggest stuff I hadn't thought of.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And if you're not sure about something, you just ask.
Okay.
And it explains it in plain English.
Like, in words I can actually understand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so it really is like having, like, a personal tax expert,
Yeah.
but without having to pay them a ton of money.
Exactly. It's like always on call.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Right.
But let's be real for a sec. Like, not everybody is, like, super tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just, they want to talk to a human,
Right. They want that personal touch.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's totally valid. And as we've been talking about, human expertise is still super important.
Okay.
This isn't about replacing humans altogether.
Okay, good.
It's about collaboration, right?
Okay, so maybe tax professionals, they become more like advisors.
Exactly.
They handle the really tricky cases,
Yeah, the complicated stuff.
help people plan for the future.
Right. Strategic planning, all that.
And they're there for the people who they really need that human connection.
Yeah, they want to talk to a person.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's fine, It's about finding that balance.
Right, the balance between AI and humans.
Exactly.
And, like, using both of them to their strengths.
Yeah, so the whole system is more efficient, more equitable.
Right, and maybe even, dare I say it,
What?
a little bit enjoyable.
Okay, maybe enjoyable is pushing it,
Okay, fair enough.
but definitely less painful.
Okay, yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah,
But it's bigger than just individual people, right?
right.
Like, what kind of impact could this have on society as a whole?
Well, we touched on this earlier. One of the biggest potential benefits is increased tax compliance.
Right, more people actually paying their taxes.
Exactly, because when it's easier to understand, when it's easier to manage,
Yeah.
people are way more likely to do the right thing.
Right.
And that can mean more money for the government.
Which means more money for, like, public services,
Exactly.
healthcare,
Infrastructure.
education.
Yeah, benefits everyone.
So it's really not just about making taxes less of a headache.
No,
It's about creating a system that actually works.
a better system for everyone.
For everyone, yeah.
And it goes even deeper than that.
Okay, how so?
Well, imagine a world where the tax code isn't this like huge barrier to entry
Right.
for small businesses.
Okay.
For entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
GenAI could give them the tools
Mhm.
and the knowledge to actually navigate the system
Wow.
without being totally overwhelmed.
Yeah, so they could, like, actually thrive.
Exactly.
That's a really cool thought.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
we'll leave our listeners with, like, one final question.
Right.
If GenAI could really help you understand and manage your taxes, like, truly make it easier,
Mm-hmm.
would you feel differently about paying them?
Mm.
Like, would it actually change your perception of taxes as a whole?
That's a really interesting question, and I think it's one that everyone needs to think about.
Yeah.
Because the future of taxes, it might be a lot closer than we think,
Right.
and it might be a lot more positive and empowering
Yeah.
than we ever imagined.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into GenAI and taxes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hopefully you learned a lot. Maybe you're even a little bit optimistic about the future of taxes now.
Maybe just a little bit.
Until next time, keep it